Canon Entertainment. Throughout our first decade, we've delivered with stars that light up the sky, films that sizzle, action too hot to handle, and drama to burn up the night.
Hi, I am Austin Trunick, author of the Canon Film Guide, and you are listening to Play That Rock and Roll.
We're charged for excitement and looking forward to another decade of blockbusters. So look to Canon for the future. Canon Entertainment. We're moving forward.
You know, so the only actual canon movie with Sylvester Stallone is the arm wrestling movie Over the Top.
The world has always bet against Lincoln Hawks.
This guy's nothing.
Why'd you leave us?
It won't happen again.
I want my grandson found. I don't care how you do it. Do it.
But a winner never listens to the odds.
Whatever happens, I want you to stay with him. Where'd we end up?
Together is all I can guarantee.
You ain't got a prayer in Vegas. You never had anything, so you have nothing to lose.
All I want to do is hurt him, cripple him, get him off the table.
All I care about is you. You're my boy, you understand?
There will be to nobody halfway. Now is the time to do for yourself.
I'm all you.
Over the top, Dad, over the top!
Sylvester Stallone, Over the Top.
This is a bizarre movie. Do you have any explanation for what about that script attracted both Menachem and Sly? Why was this so appealing to both of these guys?
Well, Menachem, this was another script. That was one of these ones that almost as long as Space Vampires was with him, he wanted to make this very badly. To tell you how far back this script dates, how long it was with Canon, is Menachem, when he acquired the script, he gave the screenwriter, David Engelbach, he hired him to write the first draft of Death Wish 2. So the Over the Top script was with Canon even before they started working on their first Death Wish sequel, which is, and it for a company that makes that has a movie idea and will usually be making it within a few weeks, to have a movie that spent 5 years in development before shooting is very, very atypically slow.
Yeah. Were there other actors ever attached to the lead role? Did they have ideas of alternatives to Stallone?
So there are actually, the script was originally written for an actor named Gary Conway, who, you'll know him, he was a villain in American Ninja 2. He was the blonde, I think the Lion was his name.
Okay.
But he was the star of this independent film that made a lot of money called The Farmer, which was very recently put out on Blu-ray after being unavailable for a very long time, but sort of in the same style of like vigilante movies, like Death Wish style. Like The Farmer was a hit. So this movie was originally, for the people that know The Farmer or saw that recent Blu-ray that got a lot of good press, I believe, from maybe Scorpion releasing, put it out. But this was originally developed as the sort of follow-up for him to star in by the same people. And what I gather is they hired David Engelbach, an early a young writer, to sort of come and take this idea and actually like turn into a screenplay for him. They had a hard time getting the same sort of financing that they had wanted, and it came to Canon very early on in Canon's time. And Menachem wanted it, but he didn't want the star. He didn't want the star that it was written for. He didn't want Conway, which I think is how part of how Conway ended up in American Ninja 2 is kind of a consolation. Deal that he got another role, even though he did not get to star in this project that he brought to them.
Right.
But Canon acquired it, and actually for a little while they had considered Don Johnson.
Oh my God.
So it all comes back to Miami Vice. we almost had a Don Johnson version of Over the Top.
Oh no,
Cannon.
I am a huge Don Johnson fan, but that would have been terrible. Oh man.
Yeah, it was ended up being a script though that they wanted Stallone and they had to talk to Stallone, and Stallone at the time had, I think, kind of a image problem. This was that he was a character that, or at least Rambo, was being marketed towards kids and things like that. And he made a lot of violent movies, and he wanted to soften that image. He didn't want to be just this sort of violent R-rated guy. And he read the original script for Over the Top and liked it and saw it as something that could kind of soften, like give him that give him something in his catalog that was your more family friendly movie. So he wanted to do it. Like Cannon sent it to him and he liked the script, and Golan really, really wanted Stallone, but Stallone's a big name actor. Stallone, he needs his money. Like he commands a certain amount of money, but at that point, Stallone also would have had a lot of people, agents and things like that would also command a certain amount of money. That's how we get $12 million. This is the amount that Cannon needed to pay him. They made Stallone the highest paid actor in Hollywood, very briefly, but for a single film for Over the Top. It was going to be $10 million. That was the asking price, but Stallone wanted to direct it himself, I believe. And when Golan insisted on directing it, because this was going to be Golan's masterpiece, it was like, okay, he'll do it for $2 million more if I don't get to direct, if Stallone doesn't get to direct. But Sterling Silliphant did a big rewrite, so they really softened it. Because Stallone wanted it to be this family-oriented film in his catalog. So think of like the original script was written by the writer of Death Wish 2 as the follow-up to a violent vigilante movie, like going for that same sort of audience. So you have this like the father-son thing was in there, but it was definitely like a more antagonistic relationship. The kid was like older, more of a like snotty, like nasty little kid who hated his father. You can read the novelization. The novelization is based on an earlier script, and there's like fights, like there are street fights. Like the novelization opens with the grandfather sending basically an assassin in another semi truck trying to drive Stallone off a cliff. And then this other semi truck that's trying to kill like Stallone's character going over the cliff and like killing him. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's the grandfather in the novelization knows he's a judo fighter. He's old. He's a grandpa, but he knows judo. And so there's actually a scene where he fights Stallone, and Stallone like ends up breaking his like knee or something, like standing on his leg and like pulling it and snapping it with like all. It's like the book describes like very vividly like listening to like the bones snap in this old man's leg, and I'm like, holy crap! Like this came out a week before the movie. There are kids who are excited that like get the novelization like a week beforehand, and are expecting this like very graphic, bloody. The novelization's a trip. If you can find it, it's worth a read.
I think I might have to track that one down. Yeah.
But Stallone ended up doing the last rewrite and like, taking other names off of it. It's funny because you can watch the drafts and then like it'll be a draft and it's like this name, this name, this name, this name. And then like the final shooting draft is like Over the Top, script by Sylvester Stallone, and then like story by like two other names.
Yeah.
I think it's Gary Conway and David Engelbach, like the original guys, but it's interesting because Stallone definitely continued to play up like the kid angle. Like it seems counterintuitive to like what you associate Stallone with like Cobra and like Rambo 2 and stuff coming out at the same time, and then him taking the script and like really dialing up the arm wrestling and dialing up the like the father son part.
And what you point out in the book is that again it's arm wrestling, which a lot of people right off the bat are like, a movie about arm wrestling. What you point out in the book is that last scene with the tournament and his final confrontation is shot in a very exciting and fun way. It feels a little bit like Rocky IV, and it's hard to describe. You have to watch it. Like it's well put together, and I have to think some of that was from Stallone's past experience working on the Rocky films.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I am sure he had a lot of input when it came to how they're shot. But yeah, because it makes arm wrestling exciting, and that's an achievement. That's an achievement because it's arm wrestling. When you boil it down to it, it's two guys holding hands and grunting for about 20 seconds. That's what arm wrestling is visually watching it, and over the top, it makes it look like the most exciting spectator sport in the world. When it's a lot of athleticism. There are people who do it semi-professionally, professionally, like really competitive, but it's not an attractive sport to watch or a visually interesting one. It's not. It's the athleticism doesn't come through in what you're seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
You interviewed the actor who plays Stallone's kid in that film, so of course my question to you about him was, did you arm wrestle him?
Oh. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to ask him, like, in your time, do a lot of people like challenge you to arm wrestling matches? And
he must get that all the time.
You'd have to. I was a little too chicken to ask him.